So today we're going to be talking about the chips. So I'm going to be going through each of the chips and then giving each current chip type a new chip. That'd be the power, support, range, mobility, lucky, and drone. And then I'll be adding my own. Let's get into it. Alright, so first off, we have the power chips. This is your damage and your fire rate, and then more damage based on the three categories we have. Adding to this, we are giving it the chain shock chip. And what this does is when you damage an enemy, some of the damage will chain to nearby enemies. And it won't be that much, but getting more of the chip will increase the radius in which the chain shock will occur. So at first, the enemy will have to be like right next to him in order for the chain shock to work, but the more chips you get, it's going to be a big radius, and it's going to be a lot of your damage chaining to other enemies. And I just think that'd be a fun way to add more dynamic to the power chip. Moving on to support chips here. This is where you have your ink recovery rate, your ink efficiency, your knockback, and then some of your weapon specific things like the charge speed, like your mid-fire charge on, or your umbrella cooldown, umbrella no launch, quick charge. You have these more weapon specific abilities. We're going to be adding on to that with the amplified swing chip. And what this does is when you're swinging with a brush or you flick paint with a roller, once you start doing it, it will slowly start to increase the speed of your swing speed. So what that means is so if you're using the roller and you're flicking it, the more you flick it, the more of an increase the flick will start to occur. So it will drain your ink tank a little more, but the base idea is that it will speed up your fire rate, if you will, for the brush and the roller, the more you flick or swing. So that's my idea for the support chips. Moving on to the range, this is where you have things like, well, your range, splash radius, the main piercing, and then you get into the ink coverage with gun or roller and brush. And then you have your special charge, turf, and basically this is kind of like the miscellaneous area on the ranged chip type. What I'm adding for the range is a dual charge. This is weapons that have a charged shot, so chargers, splatlings, tri-stringer, splatanas, and any others that I'm missing, but I think I got them all. It basically adds the ability for you to charge and then charge again. So what that means is, so say you have the charger, and once that circle fills and you have your charge, a second circle will fill. Maybe over it, maybe under it. I don't really think it matters. But basically, what that will do is once you fire, you can then fire again. So it will consume more ink that way, but it's kind of like the idea of taking the pencil and putting it in side order. And I just think that'd be a fun addition. And I don't know if I'll make this one, or if you get more chips, more charges you can store, or just make it a on and off, where you can just do it once. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. If we move on to the mobility chip, this is where you get your classic run speed and all the other speeds, extra dodge rolls, charge storage, and your attacks with the rushing, so your rush attacks, dodge roll attacks, lunge attacks, and then your mobile recoveries or mobile charges, which are all very useful. And what I'm adding to this type is the ink phase. So this would go with your rush attack and stuff, I guess. But it is after swimming at max speed for a brief time, you will be able to briefly move into enemy ink. So kind of like how the Kraken can swim in enemy ink, you'll be able to do that for a brief period after swimming at max speed. And I think this gives a unique kind of identity to the mobility chip section, where either there's some like the mobile special charge, which are already amazing, we're going to give mobility even more of this amazingness by allowing you to be able to basically just become baby Kraken for a little bit after swimming at max speed. And having more of these chips will basically allow you either the time you're able to do this to be longer, or the amount of time you have to be swimming at max speed to be less. So moving on to luck, this is where you get your armor drops and your window chain increase and stuff like that. And while I enjoy the luck stuff a little bit, it's not something I go for. I don't know if you're the same or different, it's just not my thing. So I'm like, let's make this something I would actually choose. So I went with Fortune Ink. This is a small chance that a shot from your main weapon won't consume ink. And what this means is exactly what it sounds like. As you get this chip, having more of them will increase the chance that this happens, like all the luck chips. But it will literally make it so that there's a chance that your weapon won't consume ink, and if you have like a sniper or something like that, it will be very useful, but it's also luck. So it's like, who knows if it happens or not. But I just think it is a very unique thing to the lucky chip collection, if you will. And finally on our list, we've come to the drone chip. And since I went off, they have the killer whale and the ink strike, I kind of added on to this by giving it tentamissiles. Now hear me out. The Pearl drone can now charge for a small burst of tentamissiles. And this isn't like, because you get like one killer whale and one tri-strike. So this one will basically be, instead of being able to lock onto like the 4 enemies and do, I think it's like 4 each for 12. I kind of forget, because I don't really see tentamissiles used that often, so I kind of forget the whole thing you're able to do with it. But basically, you'll be able to the Pearl drone will be able to fire a small burst of the tentamissile special from the multiplayer, which I feel like I like the idea of the Pearl drone using small versions of the specials, so I just kind of went on and extended that a little bit. And I think that would be an amazing addition, maybe a broken one, but who knows. Alright, now the moment you've all been waiting for, or maybe not, my own chip edition. This is what we're going to call the resilience chips. Starting off, we have the backup chip, and this is if your shield breaks, you will gain a brief speed boost or a brief opening gambit gear ability. If you don't know what opening gambit is, it is a gear ability in the multiplayer for headgear only, and it basically increases your speed and stuff like that at the 30 seconds at the start of the battle. So what we're doing is we're taking that, we're putting it in here with the backup chip by making it when you go critical, your armor breaks, you gain this gear ability for a brief period, or maybe the whole duration. I'm not entirely sure on this yet, but that's just my idea. Next up, we have the regen chip. Basically regenerate health when standing in your own ink, much like how in the multiplayer, your ally's ink storm or your ink storm will give you health regen like you were in squid form. This is the same idea, but instead of the ink storm, just standing in your own ink will make you start to heal, and I thought that was a unique thing to add to the game, and personally something I would actually enjoy to have. It could be a little overtuned or broken, but I think with some like tweaks and more thought, it would be essentially a very nice chip to have. And the next one would be the Ink Vitality chip. This is you recover a small amount of health whenever you deal damage to enemies. This is like the Risk of Rain 2 seed, I think, and the idea is simple. You damage an enemy, you regain HP. And if you're surrounded by enemies, clearly that's not going to do much, but if you're not surrounded by enemies, it is a nice little way to get back in the game or recover yourself. Next, we go into our next set. You know how each of these chips have sets? They have like the lines beneath them. I made my own. So that was the first set, is 3. The second set of 3 is going to be our barrier chip. And this is you gain a temporary shield after defeating a certain number of enemies. This is again taking inspiration from Risk of Rain's 2 Topaz Brooch. When you defeat a certain number of enemies, you get this little barrier or overshield that basically just gives you more HP. Next, we have the Fortitude chip, and this is when you go critical, you take less damage and move faster. The idea with this one was kind of like with the backup chip, except it's more focused on your defense instead of being focused on your recovery. You're able to move faster, so not quite as much as the opening gambit gear ability, but more just your movement speed is increased. And then you just take less damage, and as you know, when you go critical, everything just one-taps you. That will basically be kind of reduced, and I feel like more of the chips will help you with the reducing, where eventually, I think the big guys should always be able to one-tap you if you're critical, but maybe like the medium and small guys is a little much, so you can just be able to kind of like take some more hits instead of going critical, basically being a game over for you. The next one in this set, and the final one, is the Guardian chip. And this is the classic reduced knockback from enemy attacks and explosions. There's not really a lot of enemies that can knock you back without killing you or making you go critical, but this is kind of like, for the enemies that can, this gives you a little bit more of a protection against that, so you don't lose your ground. So, pretty simple. And then our final tone, or our final chips in this. First we have the comeback chip. And this is, well, when your HP is critical, so when you are critical, your ink refill rate and firing speed are increased. This is going off the once you're under pressure, will you sink or swim? And this will try and help you swim and not sink. The next one is the survivor chip. This is a small chance to negate a fatal blow. This is kind of like mixing this with luck, but it kind of gives the same vibe, where there's a chance that if you go critical, something that hits you won't kill you. And then finally, we have the perseverance chip. This is the lower your HP, the faster your special charge fills. Tenacity, or that multiplayer gear ability where when there's more of them than you, your special gauge fills. Same idea, except it is when you go below half or go critical, your special charge rate will fill. And that is all I have to say for this video. If you guys like this kind of content, this kind of like more analysis based content, please let me know and I'll try to make more of it, because this is fun. I find this enjoyable to do because it's taking something I like and now analyzing and giving my own thoughts and ideas, trying to see what you guys would think about making this game a more, I don't know, fun experience or a better experience. But with that, I will see you guys in the next one. Please like this video if you want to see more content like this, or leave a comment, and I will see you all in the next one.